Hey everybody, it's Crypto Trader Vader here doing another live Poloniex trading journal. And in case you haven't seen any of these before, basically what I like to do is every week I'll do all the 35 coins that you see on the side here. I think there's actually 34 of them. Sometimes I chuck a couple of bonus ones in there, but I analyze each of these coins every week for two reasons. The first is so that I get practice, getting better and better at analyzing the same coins, and I'm able to look back on the what I've previously said through the spreadsheet here or watching the actual videos themselves. And the second reason is because some people like to watch this analysis and get a second opinion on any of these coins here. And if of course there's any coins that you want me to check out that aren't on the list there, let me know and I'll do my best to get to it. So let's jump into it. So we're starting with ADA. We've got ADA up already. Last week I said that we're going to be staying above 34 sats. I'm curious what I said the week before that. If greater than 3470. So that was back in the 29th of March. So I did say back here that if it was going to be breaking above this 3470, this sort of level right here, that we'd be seeing a nice bull run, which certainly did happen, and of course it's come back down. And then what I said last week was that it'll stay above 3400 sats, which it pretty much did. In fact, the lowest it got was 3436. So that was pretty good, I guess. And where is it going to be going from here is the real question, right? So we've had this 1, 2, 3 bottom forming here, and that's popped up above this line. It's come back to rest on it. Something that I've noticed quite frequently with these 1, 2, 3 breakouts is that they'll come back and kind of rest on this 2 line before taking off more. I'm going to delete these 1, 2, 3 signals. Maybe we can chuck some new ones in there when they arise. But we see here that the support has been held at this new level, which is definitely a good sign. So I'm not exactly sure whether it's coming back down to touch this support. My guess is that it'll probably, form like almost like a new 1, 2, 3 bottom, something like that. And if the price can kind of turn around at this point, then we'd be looking for another break above kind of here and here. But time will tell with that. So I'm really not sure about this one. Looks like the market's decided that it's worth a bit more than where it was at, which is great. And of course, if that is signifying the turnaround of the altcoin market, which I'm definitely anticipating, then the prices should continue to rise. So we've obviously got some resistance around the 42 mark. And hey, Lumbridge, thanks for tuning in, Doug. Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Of course, this very recent drop, a lot of the coins are starting to take off, and then just in the last couple of hours here, we've had a nice big fat drop. I'm just wanting to quickly, before we go on to the next coin, just quickly check out the Bitcoin USD, because that right there is probably what's accounting for this giant altcoin drop. Look at that. So here we are, just chugging along. Altcoins are starting to pick up, and Bitcoin has to go and do that. So what the hell happened? Was there must have been some news that came out or something? Thanks, Doug. No, I appreciate it. Do you know what happened with Bitcoin? Was there some sort of news that came out that shot it up? Because it jumped essentially $1,500 in the space of a couple of hours. So I'm curious as to whether there was some news or something, or yeah, just started going up, right? Man, it's a bit of a shame for the alts, because the alts were really starting to kind of pick up steam, and I've said this many times on this channel before, that with a stable and slow-moving Bitcoin, the altcoins tend to rise up because people are looking for return on their money. But with a very volatile Bitcoin, people get unsure about altcoins. So anyway, my prediction for ADA's where are we? Poloniex is a little up in the air, but I think the support will hold on this line, and we'll be seeing hopefully a bit more of a turnaround. Hopefully before we hit this support, because that way we can get a bit juicier rise. So I'll say here that I'm generally bullish till next week. You know what? I'll even put the until next week. Let's move on to Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash copped a walloping with their Twitter was banned, like Bitcoin.com Twitter was banned. Probably somewhere around this run down here. So in the past, I did say that last week I did say I was bearish until next week. That was on the 5th of April. That was on this line here. It really didn't move, did it? It went down a little bit, went up a little bit. It's meeting me right in the middle, so that's just moving sideways. Although, I mean, if you squint your eyes, you can probably see kind of a 1, 2, 3 bottom forming, very small one, and then failed. But this crash in Bitcoin is causing that to drop. I'm gonna have to put a watch on that because I'm really not sure what's happening with Bitcoin Cash. No nice formations that I like to look for. So let's move on. Black coin. What's that? I have not found anything on Twitter yet. Yeah, cool. Keep an eye out, I guess, for things on Bitcoin. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it, Doug? It's a very good question. You've asked, will the price jump in Bitcoin dampen the alts, or will it signal confidence? And that's a very good question. Of course, we both hope that it's the latter. We both hope that the altcoins continue to rise. And I am kind of feeling that vibe. I do get a sense of the market is starting to gain a little confidence in the space after this strong bear market for the last couple of months. And you can, of course, see that reflected in all of these prices. We're looking at black coin right now with the clear 1, 2, 3 bottom forming, where it's kind of failed to break this 2 line. But I think it will reattempt it, because you can see again these 1, 2, 3 bottom formation here, and it has breached this middle, this smaller 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, and doesn't appear to be breaching lower just yet. So we might be seeing another reattempt to break this higher 2 mark. But yeah, what I was saying is that you can see the confidence reflected in the alts, and so hopefully it's the latter, Doug. Yeah, I skip a whole bunch of coins actually. I don't do every single coin. I have about 34 that I revisit. I find the huge list, including Bella, is a bit long, but let's have a look at Bella anyway, because this will be my kind of first eyes on it. I've never traded Bella before. There's some obscure coins on Bittrex that I'm using for my journey from 0.2 Bitcoin to 1 Bitcoin, which I know I haven't updated in a couple of weeks, but I will be doing an update tomorrow on that. Just a quick balance update. Not going to be going into super huge depth into it, but we've had a little bit of growth, which is nice. So Bella's got this 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, and of course higher lows, and we need to breach this 2 line. This is the stuff that that you'd be very familiar with, Doug, of course, these sort of patterns. But it's also interesting to kind of look at other things to confirm these changes, and that would be by moving it to the daily chart and looking at the maybe the daily is a bit too much. Maybe it's more the 12-hour. We'd be looking for those EMAs to start crossing over. We'd be looking for the MACD to switch around, which I haven't got up at the moment. We'd be looking for the stock RSI to be kind of not in the oversold category, ideally. Sorry, in the overbought side. But I mean, it's just a stock standard 1, 2, 3 bottom here, isn't it? So we really need just a breach above this 1249 level on Bella coin, and if we can get a solid Let's change back to 4 hour. If we can get a solid 1 or 2 candles above this line here, 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'd be looking for a breakout. And where it would stop, I always look to the previous resistance. The first thing I check when I'm doing these 1, 2, 3 bottom formations is I grab an arrow and I go right from the bottom of the 1 all the way to the 2 here. And then I copy paste that. So I've got 2 arrows. And then I chuck it over here on top of that line. And I find that a lot of the time when the breakout occurs, if it's a very fast breakout, it'll get up to the top of this arrow, or right around this point. So I tend to put a line right at the top of this arrow, and then I look left for the resistance around that point. So really I'd probably be more comfortable putting a sell order if it's a quick swing trade around the 14.30 mark, just at the bottom of the arrowhead. That's my Bella analysis. Let's move on. So what did I say with, hang on, let's go to black coin. What did I say with black coin here? So yeah, we still need a breach for black coin above 33, essentially 3400 sats. So if we can get above 3400 sats, that's a less than sign. We'll be getting a nice bull run. Right, bit shares now. Moving on. So I've already had a breach here with bit shares. This 1, 2, 3 bottom. It's broken out. It's come back to kind of rest on and around this 2 line. Let's delete that arrow. And now, of course, we're getting a new formation. New 1, 2, 3 bottom. And now we just need a breach above this 2250 mark. Actually, it's exactly the same as what I said last week, so we can really copy paste that. If we get a breach above 2260, you'd be wanting to buy at that point, and it kind of did right here. This fake out breakout, and then Bitcoin must have started taking off. Let's move on to clams. Now, clam coin is near and dear to my heart. If you've watched these before, I love clam coin. And look at this. It's just breached this 1, 2, 3 bottom formation. Higher lows all the way up. And now, of course, it's breached. Wow, it really jumped up there for a second. That's nice because I had some popcorn sell orders, I think, by memory, set for around 52 and maybe 55. So I might have just missed out. I'll have to go in and check that later. But what we find, or what I find with these breaches of the 2 line, is that the price will come back and swing down, and it might kind of scrape the 2 or get close to it, and it looks like it's done just that before taking off higher. So hopefully that's a positive sign for clams. And oh, that would be so nice if it starts to go up to these higher levels again. Of course, there's a big sell pressure, you know, these big sell orders. I think the nature of clams, the kind of use case for it, or what it's tending to be used for, is for just dice. And it means that there's people have clam coin invested on just dice, where they're earning money from gamblers losing on there, or possibly gamblers are going on there and winning large sums of money. But what it means is that you don't get this very smooth transition all the time. You might every so often, you know, a person that's got, I don't know, a few thousand clams sitting on just dice earning money, they might decide it's time to pack up shop and leave, and they just sell it. And that just causes these giant declines in the price. You can see here, here's one that happened. You know, we see these big spikes down, and these are probably situations where people are getting rid of their just dice investments, whereas the investing or the buying up of clams, I think, would be more gradual. Anyway, that's just my opinion. But where is it going? It seems to have broken out above the 2, so it'll probably, if we take this arrow here, go between the 1 and the 2 line, copy paste that above here. It's already touched. See, look at how perfect that is. You can't you can't, like, you look at that and you can't say that technical analysis does not work when you get things that match up exactly like that. See where that wick ended up? It's exactly at the top of this arrow. That you could have had a sell order right there. Wow. I do very much enjoy this. Let's delete some of these indicators here. So where is it going next, right? So I imagine the price will get to that point again. And then hopefully if we get a breach of that, we get up to kind of these levels up here. Let's say generally bullish until next week on that one. Civic. Now last week I said if we get greater than 3200 sats, we get a bull run. Let's have a look. And we're right on 3200 sats. So I titled this video The Moment We've Been Waiting For, because if you look at a lot of these chart patterns, they're reflecting the 1, 2, 3 bottom that I've been waiting for, that I know a lot of people have been waiting for that follow these videos, and that certainly Doug's been waiting for. Lumberich City, who taught me how to do this stuff. And this is really the time to be buying these altcoins. I think. I'm hoping. There is, of course, the chance that these altcoins will start to drop back down and find newer lows. However, we're now getting to the point where we're getting confirmation and the breakout of these 1, 2, 3 bottoms. Whereas previously we might get a 1, 2, 3, and then the price will end up going lower. It won't actually break above the 2 line. And now we're of course getting the breach above the 2, and then coming back to rest on it. So it's a bit. It feels like this time is a bit more likely to be the time that the price is going to be turning around. And of course, Civic, no exception there. Copy paste. Lots of generally bullish until next week in this video. Pardon me. Gotta stay lubricated. Alrighty. What do we got? We're looking at Dash coin. Now Dash is interesting, and I know I've said this 1,000 times, so if you've heard this before, I apologize because it sounds like a broken record, but Dash coin is really not so much 8 million coins. It's more like 8,000 masternodes, because you need 1,000 Dash to hold a masternode, and a masternode is like, in Dash coin, is something that earns a lot of money, gives you a decent return. So I like to look at Dash coin not as a circulating supply of 8 million, but rather a circulating supply of 8,000 masternodes. And of course the demand for those masternodes goes up and down with the price, but overall I think that these big spikes down that you see here are people getting rid of masternodes. They're like, nah, I'm done, nah, I'm done, nah, I'm done. And then of course people accumulate, but you get these giant spikes, just like with Clam coin. You get a lot more volatility. Maybe I'm just spouting rubbish, but looks like it's moving along in the little channel here. So there's this other trade that I learnt about through a Forex YouTuber, and I've mentioned it once before on here, but I'll mention it again just in case there's anyone that's interested. Basically what it is when you see the price moving through a channel like this, and you know we've had multiple kind of touches on either side, what happens is the price will exit the box at some point. Let's say it's down. You don't actually buy on the down. What happens is the price comes back up to touch where the box was, and then if we get a red candle in the case of going down, you'd see the price drop down like that. So what you're looking for in a situation like this is not an exit from the box and an immediate return, but you're actually looking for an exit from the box like this. Let's say if it's on the north end, on the bullish end, price goes up like that, comes back, and then it bends up. And the minute that you have a green candle here, you'd be placing a buy order. And that's called the bend trade. But that's one that I've done a couple of times, but not had a heap of practice on. Anyway, Dashcoin, what's going on with Dashcoin? Seems to be bottoming out, just like a lot of altcoins, but not forming a super solid 1, 2, 3. This 1, 2, 3 is more of a wick, which I like to trade less on. But still, I mean, either way you look at it, we need a breach above the same level I think that I said last week, which is 0.046, and if we can get above that, we'd be looking at a bull run. Decred now, let's move on. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on Decred. I did buy some Decred, I already sold it right around here. And now it's moving higher. Wow. Look at that. So if you zoom right out, right, let's change this to the daily so you can see what I'm talking about. We've got a mini 1, 2, 3 where we've got the price breaking out now. And we've got a giant 1, 2, 3 where the price is turning around. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see Decred reaching up to these 950k sats level, because that's what it really needs to do to test if it wants to go higher. So I think the price is going to do something like that, come back down and either break through or come back down and go down. Oh, I think the yeah, sweet, thanks. 20-minute markers, yeah, cool. I'll check that out later. But I think the timestamps only work in the comments after the video is not live anymore. So Decred, I'm not going to be surprised if Decred gets up to these sort of 950k sats levels. So I'll pop that in here because it is a bit of a call. Bullish to 950k sats. And then I'll put in there to test, because that's the bigger 1, 2, 3 bottom formation. And of course, if we can get a breach above that, we'll see Decred going heaps higher. Let's move on to Dogecoin. Dogecoin and I have had a interesting past relationship. I said last week that if we're going to get a turnaround in Dogecoin, we need to hit 43k sats. Sorry, 43 sats, which we did, because we breached this 1, 2, 3, and then right at this point, of course, we've had a run up and a subsequent decrease. Now, of course, Dogecoin is just one of those fan favorites, isn't it? Look at all these huge spikes up, and these go, these go even further back. 1, 2, 3, 4. The minimum that it's hit when it's gone on one of these bull runs is 87 sats. That's the minimum, and the best, is like 180 sats. And of course, given the exponential rise of Bitcoin, dollars and cents wise, that is huge money. And every time it does it, it's gotten to much lower levels. 20 sats, 16 sats, these sort of levels. This is where I bought last time, and I sold at 100. But this might be the point where it's starting to turn around. We've had a decent amount of time now for the market to cool off. There's still a lot of excitement in the air. I don't think it's going to be dying down anytime soon, but this might be the point where now it's starting to turn around. However, of course, there's resistance at that point. Let's go back to 4 hours now. So I've drawn this previous resistance mark in at 48, probably looks to be more like 49.50. Still valid though, and that's where it needs to kind of breach if it's going to go even higher. So 50 sats equals more bull. Oops, didn't make that one green. Alright, Ethereum now. Great stuff, Doug. That's awesome. I saw that you did a margin trade in the Discord, and that's, yeah, I'm a bit jealous that you took that one because I missed the breakout. And of course, once it's broken out, we don't know where it's going to stop. You don't know where it's going to set up next. So I don't want to buy in after that point. But good job. That's supreme. And you're also going long on Mate at the moment, isn't that right? I'm going to check out Mate in a sec if you want. So here's Ethereum 1, 2, 3, kind of very slight 3, if you can even call it that. You probably even go like that as a 1, 2, 3. I mean, you could really point the 2 there and the 3 there. Either way, we've breached the 2 mark. And now we're getting the price resting on this point, right around this 2. And Ethereum is just trying to decide whether it's going to be going higher or not. And get rid of these old ones here. I always like seeing these old 1, 2, 3 pop up in my charts because it just reminds me that it's not a guarantee. You know what I mean? Like, you might have a 1, 2, 3, you might even have a breakout, but ultimately the price can just capitulate. Ah, good one. Yep. Yeah, I think your Made is my clams. It's one of our riskier holdings that we just hold to the bitter end because we believe in it. So Ethereum, I mean, I think it's going to be going. I think it's going to be continuing upwards. But of course, we'll encounter some resistance along the way. These are the previous points that I've marked out with this particular line. So that'll be at least the next mark. I don't think it'll get there in a week, but maybe. So let's put it down, 0.067. Bullish to 0.067. Expanse now. Let's delete that before we go on. Expanse. Just start smashing through these a little quicker because I'm running a little low on time. 1, 2, 3, breach above that, come back down to rest on it. Exactly the same pattern that we're seeing in a lot of alts. The 1, the 2, the 3, the breakout, the come back and rest on that 2 line. Look at it. And if you think about it, what I was saying before at around minute 20, Doug was saying that this is it's kind of similar to a bend trade, because what we're looking for in this situation, if you miss the breakout of the box, right, because sometimes the price continues up and it never comes back down, but if you miss the breakout, then a lot of the time, I mean some of the time, I dare say the majority of the time, the price will actually come back down and get close to this level of the 2, and then as it starts to bend back upwards, you've got another example of this bend trade, where as it's going back up, that's where you want to be buying it. So Expanse Coin looks to be doing that. And previous resistance that I've marked out on this particular chart here. Let's get rid of these little arrow, these trend lines. Probably going to be encountering some resistance at around 25k sats or so. So I'll say here bullish to 25k sats. Oh, last week I said bearish until next week. Dead wrong. Dead wrong on that. 5th of April I said that. Well, it did go bearish for a little while, but ultimately the market turned around. Well, I am wrong. Big surprise. Here we go with Factum now. 1, 2, 3 bottom previously marked out. Still relevant. Although that 3 I'd say is quite kind of there. And getting almost close to a breach here. So this trend line is indicating to us that we'll probably get a breach soon. And if we get it above 320k sats, we'll be looking to see the price go higher. Now what do? In this situation, we bust out our arrow. Go from the bottom of the candle, the solid candle, not the wick, right up into almost that line, copy, paste, take that, place it right on that line there, and then we've got an indication of where the price could likely go, except that there's still one step, which is to go left and to look around this line for the previous resistance, and I'd say it's there because of that support. It's bounced off it several times and tried to breach back up a couple times here. So this second line here is really the resistance, so I'd say that's where the price would be going if we get a breach above 320k. We'd be looking at about 410. So let's go copy paste that, except I'll put here 410k. Nice. Sweet, sweet. One, two, three here, a breakout above, came back to rest on it, and now coming back up again. And this previous resistance support line that I've drawn out looks like it's found itself resting on it, which is awesome. Because if it does start to go north here, that's a buy signal. Generally bullish. Look at me, I've spelt it wrong on all of these. Fixed. Now this one here I'm going to put a star next to, because that's one I want to buy. Just by the looks of this formation, we've got the 1, 2, 3, the breakout above, and now it's resting above this support line. So if we can get a green candle coming up here, that might be a buy signal for me. And not the exact trade that I frequently trade. However, I don't want to sell myself short of that opportunity if it's there. Alright, let's move on to game credits now. Oh, it's a bit, is it really a surprise that we're seeing the same pattern appearing again? 1, 2, 3 bottom. A lot of pressure on this 2. I remember saying that last week. A lot of pressure on this 2. You see it so many times. It tried to break it, couldn't quite get through. Now it's broken it strongly and it's come back to rest on it. Yes. At this point, I just want to go back and revisit something that Lumbridge City said here about the price of Bitcoin affecting it. You said, will the Bitcoin pump, the recent jump in Bitcoin price today, will it dampen the alts or will it signal confidence in all the crypto markets? And looking at this chart here makes me think it's definitely going to signal confidence. People are seeing the price of Bitcoin going up. It might initially shock the market and the alts might drop, but overall I think it's wise to say that it'll give the market confidence. So very good call there. 17k, greater than 17k, we've got a bull move, and we've had that bull move, and I think it's going to continue to go up. So I'm going to put here generally bullish until next week, and a star, because I do want to buy some game credits. That looks nice. Alrighty, GNO. Let's delete some of these old drawings. GNO, we've had a 1, 2, 3 bottom, a breach out above, and now a rest on that 2 line. Exactly the same as we're seeing everywhere. And this is the part of trading that I sometimes think is boring, because it is the same things. But the fact that we're talking about money and there's opportunity to make money makes it exciting for me. So we've had a breach above 0.01 with Gnosis. Where will it go? I don't know. I don't know where it's going to be going, but I am generally bullish on it because of the same pattern that's forming in many of these altcoins. And now, of course, we've had a breach and we're coming to touch that 2 line again. It's like clockwork. Wow, that one took off, didn't it? Golem Network Token. I still hold a couple of these. 1, 2, 3 bottom. Wow, big breach above this line, came back to rest on it, took back off, and now is encountering the usual resistance that it's encountered many other times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the past. Sometimes it breaches it, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always some resistance there. And so my guess would be that it comes back up to test this resistance at around 4T100. LBC now. Let's move on. And the color coordination that you're seeing on my Koinigi chart here, it's not super important. It's just kind of messages to myself to remind me of what I'm looking for in those particular circumstances. So red, as an example, is one that I've traded either recently or currently have assets in. And this is in my 0.2 to 1 Bitcoin journey, which I will provide an update for tomorrow. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Same thing with this. Right around this 2 mark. Kind of breached it once already, come back to touch it, and now we're heading back up in a bullish direction. No doubt if we can breach this 3,000, we'll be getting to around 3,700, which is the point that it's reached a couple of times in the past. So let's move on to Lisk. 1, 2, 3 formation, and this one here hasn't quite reached the 2 mark yet. So either the market was a little bit too excited when it reached up here, which I think was the case, but we'll probably see that retest that line at some point. Whether that's in the immediate future or not, I'm not sure. Let's watch that one for later. Check that out next week. I did say last week on Lisk, if we're going over 140k sats, that we'll be seeing a bull run, and we haven't had that happen yet. So you know what, copy paste that across because that's still relevant. Litecoin 0.018 equals a bull run. Let's have a look at Litecoin. That's what I said last week. 0.018, we haven't reached there, that's for sure. In fact, we've had a big dip, and it's come back to reach this 1 point. That one is going to be a watch. Let's check out Madecoin now, just before I move on to NAV. Whoa, got a few drawings on that one. So here we had a trading channel coming down. Let's delete that. Kind of channel going across here. And what do we got? I mean, that's kind of like a 1, but really, if you're counting wicks, the 1's really over here, isn't it? Where it really spiked down. That's probably its lowest point. And of course, the number 2 we placed there with a 3 somewhere there. And if that's the case, then we need a breach above that line, which we got. Come back to rest on it. And almost coming back to rest on it. Just drop that a little lower there. Resistance. Let's try a couple of resistance points here. So where is Made going? Because it definitely looks like it's going up. And, you know, hopefully bouncing off this support line. But it's, you know, it's going to encounter resistance there again. pretty strong. Failed to kind of get beneath it back here historically. And then once it did breach, tried to kind of retest it. So it's a pretty strong fence, this one right here. So if MAID is not going up, I would think that it would have at least had to test this line before. But I mean, that it got close, but not really. So hopefully we have MAID breaking through and getting up to this 48, kind of 47.50 level, this support level. And if it can, of course, get above that, it will come back, rest on it before moving higher, right? Oh no, it's a tricky one. That just because of the 1, 2, 3 is not super clear, it's hard to tell. Because you can say, well, 1's back here, 1, 2, 3, but that 3 is so low, it's basically another 1. And in fact, this wick dipped beneath it, so. Yeah, not sure about that. Yeah, good point, Doug. There's some... It's a good point just to bring up the fundamentals of a coin as well, of course. These things do affect the price, probably more so than the technical aspects of it. And, yeah, it definitely... I agree that it does look like a bottom formation, because if you're looking at the general trend, do you know what I mean? Like, instead of looking at the individual candles, you kind of zoom out and just kind of blur your eyes. You can see the trends kind of like that, right? Then the 1, 2, 3 is a lot clearer without these kind of wicks dipping down. And if that's the case, then certainly we're breached above the 2 line, and we'll be looking to go higher. But you're right, it could take some time, and it might take, you know, this trading kind of channel upwards to get us there. Something like that. Let's have a look in the 18-month view here. Dailies. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Let me get rid of these lines temporarily here. Trash them. So what we're seeing, instead of this mini 1, 2, 3 bottom, we essentially have a giant 1, 2, 3 bottom forming. Nice. But it is very low, right? So like sometimes the 1, 2, 3 bottom will kind of go like this, and it'll be, the 3 will be a lot higher. But sometimes, of course, the price will come back and it'll be almost like this one, where it's almost as low as the initial low, but not quite. I'm curious as to whether that matters, whether the higher that the 3 is indicates like a stronger bullish trend, whether that makes a difference ultimately on how quickly it's going to break out. But yeah, the big number for the MAID coin then is the resistance around this mark, right? So around 7,800 sats or so. Good one. All right, let's move on to the rest of these coins. Got about 10 more to get through. Yeah, exactly. Yep, worth the risk, right? Yep. All right, we're on NAV coin. Let's move back to the 4-hour bars here. Yes, a giant 1, 2, 3 here. Move this 3 line down a little. Still the same mark that we need to get through. So we still need to get through about 14k sats with Navcoin. And that's pretty much what I said last week. We still haven't breached it with this one. Some coins are yet to breach this 2 mark, which of course presents us with an opportunity. Let's move on to to OMG rather. Big 1, 2, 3 breach, part of the bigger 1, 2, 3, and came back to rest right on that line, that would be the point to enter. And of course now it's taken off again. So just in the last kind of half an hour, just looking at getting a good gauge of all of these different markets, I'm really starting to feel that the sentiment is shifting. And you know, I hate to bring it up again, but what you were saying before about the Bitcoin price jump giving the market confidence, oh, that is music to my ears now. It's exciting. Where's OMG going to encounter resistance? That's my question. Maybe around 160,000 or something. All right, rep. Yeah, that's interesting. Rep's really one of the first coins that's just getting trashed. Not looking good. Putting a watch on that, just for my notes, but certainly not looking at buying any rep at the moment. That looks like it's trashed. Sorry for anyone holding that. Sia coin is a beautiful one. Look at this, very low cost coin. There's a huge circulating supply, but it means the volatility is, I don't know, I guess a little bit more hectic. It's just like with Dogecoin, how people get big spikes. And now, of course, the 2 line is up here, which we've had a slight breach above, a fake out breakout here. Still a good buy, I think, on that one. And again, like if you take the bigger picture view, 1, 2, 3, and then you kind of zoom in even closer, you get a 1, 2, 3 here, and kind of breach out and a touch on it. So really, Sia coin, I think, that's a bullish. That'd be another bullish call for me on that one. And I'm going to put a note there to check that out later, because where's that previous resistance land us? That's my question. This point here, where it's tried to break out multiple times, ultimately did. So these marks is where I'd be placing my sell orders at around 230 and 260 sats. Bullish to 230, 260 sats. And I'm going to pop a star next to this one because I might just buy myself some Sia coin. Steam now. No, well, that's not a bullish signal, is it? 1, 2, 3, huge spikes. Hasn't quite breached this resistance point yet. There's always another resistance point. Looks like Steam is definitely taking off, and just in general, I mean, I know I've mentioned this hundreds of times before, but in general, the crypto markets, with the exuberance of getting rich quick, they go up very quickly, and they take a long time to taper off generally. You can see here, big spike up, and of course a very long tail coming back down. Big spike up, big spike up, big spike, and then a long time coming down. So these big spikes, they're not unheard of. You know, I'm not sure if this altcoin bull run is going to lead us all the way to these huge highs up here, and that's why I'm kind of taking profits along the way and re-entering if we get another breach out. But yeah, my game plan at the moment is to take profits at these resistance points, and not expect breaches above these previous highs, because I was working in an office back in end of, I think around this point, and I'll tell you that you know, at the end of 2017, really in January, just before I kind of left, the talk of the office was, oh, which altcoins are you in? And when you hear the layman going on about altcoins, investments, and getting rich quick, that's a big red flag for me. And so that's why I'm not quite sure whether this altcoin turnaround is going to be up here, or whether it'll kind of be up here, you know, and taper off at this level. That's the real question. Where do you take the profits, right? And so that's why I'm going to take them along the way. Let's move on. Let's just put a watch on Steam, because I spoke too much about it and didn't have much to say. We got storage now, 1, 2, 3 bottom forming, breach above, come back to touch it, and now of course we're starting to take off again. And this one is another one that's going to be bullish, at least until that 12,000. STR. Okay, last couple coins now. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. Appreciate it. Still got a couple people watching. Thanks. 1, 2, 3 bottom here. Need really a breach above 3,400. 3,400. Greater. What am I doing? Sats equals bull run. I must have typed that once before. Oh, right up here. Black and STR very much in the same situation. Stellar lumens. Strat now. Oh, stratty boy. 1, 2, what happened here? 1, 2, 3 if we're counting the wick. And we need a breach above 60,000, 64,000 even. So that one's, with a lot of these altcoins that are taking off, you've got some that aren't. Words of genius. That was it. With some taking off, no, but seriously, with some of these coins, they've taken off, and then some of them aren't. The ones that aren't, you kind of have to look at and think, well, what's going on? Why aren't they following the same trends? And of course, the answer to that is, well, they're not as hyped up. They may not have the same announcements or partnerships or other bullshit fundamental stuff that's upcoming. But on the flip side of that, it might be that, hey, maybe they're not that useful. Maybe they don't have a monetary utility. Like, maybe they're just not that valuable. I'm just going to check out Syscoin before we move on to VTC, because this is one that I like, but hasn't been performing very well. And if we get in close, we see a 1, 2, 3 bottom, a breach above, and now a new touch on that line. Although really, you got to kind of blur your eyes to see that clearly. Why did it stop at this point, right? Probably going to say that it's at least going to be retouching, kind of retesting these levels, 4,400 or so on Sys. Well, I don't have a listing for Sys, so we'll skip past that one. Let's move on to VTC, the last couple coins here. Very deep 3 here. Fake out breakout where it went crazy for a second, but it still really hasn't breached this 30k. Really need just a solid breach above 30k sats for a bull run, and we haven't got that with VTC yet. XCP 1, 2, 3 breach above right now, breaching above right now. My guess is that this will come back down to rest on it and then take off. Maybe not though. Sometimes they don't come down all the way. Generally bullish until next week with XCP. And now XMR. Monero. Monero not super hyped at the moment. Definitely not. You got other coins like Verge and Navcoin and of course Dash and Zcash. There's a lot of privacy coins out there. Some people are doubting them, whether they're going to be interfered with from a government or legislative perspective. I don't think that that's going to be happening in the next 6 months. I don't think that governments are going to be coming out and thanks for tuning in, Doug. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I don't think the government's going to be coming out and banning Monero and things like that yet. It could happen in the future at some point, and they'll be like, no more Monero. Monero will crash back down, but of course, after that crash, it'll go back up because people will realize, hey, it's government free. It's anti-government, which I think will be beneficial for it in some senses. That said, I hate to do it, but I got to pop a watch on it. Alright, the last 3 coins. XPM. Here we've got a 1, 2, 3, and it's right up at this mark. So if we drop this a little, we can see that the price is almost getting there. It needs to go above here. I said it last week. I'm going to copy paste that because it's the exact same thing. Last week I said that Ripple is bearish, and I think I was very wrong on that. Yes, I was. Look at that giant buy order. Few buy candles. Wow. So we have now higher lows. 1, 2, 3 bottom formation. We ideally need to have a breach above this kind of line here, but solidly. We had that, and now it's come back and dipped beneath it. So my guess is that it's probably very quickly going to be coming up. Or not that high. Coming up here, resting, and then possibly taking off, or maybe more like that. That'd be my guess. So I'd say that it's probably going to get back up above 7,400. Back above 7,400. And then bullish. And finally, last but not least, Zcash. 1, 2, 3 bottom, failed, came back down, and that one has got a mini 1, 2, 3 bottom formation, but it's very volatile and not looking good. Gonna put a call on Zcash to be bearish. I'm not 100% on that, but just this fact that this lower lows in a market like this is concerning to me. So I don't think that that'll be doing supremely well. If it does well, it might do slightly well, but not supremely well. Alright, that is it for another week on the Poloniex Trading Journal. Thanks so much for tuning in and sticking around. I'm going to do a very short video which I'll upload tomorrow, which will just show off the balance of my Bittrex account for those of you following along with my 0.2 to 1 Bitcoin journey. I've made some headway in that. I think it's the balance is around about 0.21 now, thanks to some wins. So I'll make a short video about that shortly and put that up tomorrow. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.